Hello and welcome to Community Roundup, sponsored by Brad's Furniture and Appliances. I'm Jordan Prentice from energeticcity.ca, and today I'm joined by Mr. Universe contestant Todd Payette. How are you today, Todd?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good, thank you so much for joining me today. So tell me about your bodybuilding journey.
Well, it's a long journey. The gray hair in my beard has been well earned. I started training in bodybuilding when I was 18 years old, inspired by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had written a book, and I just found it to be really inspiring. Not so much even what he did with his physique. Yes, that was inspiring, but the hurdles that he overcame and the obstacles, you know, everybody told him, you can't do this. And he went beyond everybody's expectations, and I thought, man, I want to be like that guy. So I found myself skinny-year-old, kid in the gym training away and telling anybody who would listen that one day I'm going to go to Mr. Universe, and they would look at me and laugh, So,
oh, wow.
So that's how I started.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you just got back from England,
That's
where
right.
you were competing in the 2022 Mr. Universe contest.
That's right.
Tell me about that experience.
Well, that was a pretty good experience, as you can see, because I come back with some hardware. No, it was really good. It was by far the toughest show I've ever done. And I've done the Universe before, but this year it was like, maybe because there was a 2-year break, everybody just really geared up hard for this, trained really hard. And it was a huge class. There was 14 countries in my category, and I managed to place top 5. I was 5th, actually. So I was very, very, happy. Of course I wanted to win, but top 5 at that level is extremely hard.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's like that. Out of the whole world.
Yes.
Yeah. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Congrats. So that being said, you train here. We're at the gym, by the way, a local gym called The Gym.
The Gym.
So you train here. Where you're also a personal trainer. Can you tell me a little bit about the training process? Because I can only imagine it's probably so intense.
Brutal would be a great word. The training is obviously a very tough part of it, but generally people who compete in bodybuilding, we love to train, right? But it's training when you're exhausted, training when your food, you're not having a lot of carbohydrates and your body fat stores are very, very low, so you have very little energy. That's the challenge. And then pushing and training hard when you don't want to. You really want to just sit on your butt and eat Doritos, and that's just not part of the plan. So it's really, you find out what you're made of, because we all want to stop when things get uncomfortable. But to compete, especially at that level, when things get uncomfortable is when it starts, right? So where most people want to stop. It's like Muhammad Ali had this great saying, and it's very apropos, is that somebody asked him once, how many sit-ups do you do when you train? He says, I really don't know, because I don't start counting them until they hurt. It's kind of like that, right? So it doesn't even count until, okay, it's uncomfortable, now we're training.
That's a good method.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
that's a good way to push yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I think. So you were telling me that you actually have a book that was published last year. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. It's called Shoulder Down, and it's basically my story that I started writing, I guess, about 6 years ago, and it was just something I had begun. It was like just cathartic for myself. I had gone through a lot of challenges in my life. My father had taken his own life when I was 5 years old, and I'd found his body shortly thereafter. And by the time I was 16, I was homeless. I got into trouble with the law later in life, found myself incarcerated. So there were all these things, right? And so I just started writing one day, and I shared it with somebody. I said, I've been writing, and my friend said, well, let me see. And he read it. He says, this is really good. You should get this published. And I was like, I thought he was just being nice, right? When your kid does a terrible drawing and you put it on the fridge sort of thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was like that. But I let a few more people read it, and they encouraged me. Said, this is really interesting. What else have you, keep writing. Are there more chapters? So I finished it. And so I started approaching publishers, and it's really hard to get published when you've never been published. You're not a writer per se. But eventually, I found a publisher who actually had had a little bit of a background in bodybuilding when he was young, and he says, "You know, send it to me. I promise you, I'll read 3 chapters." I said, "Great." And he got back to me a couple days later, and he said, "You know what? I read the whole thing. It was fantastic."
Wow.
He says, "Do you want to be published?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay." And he sent me a contract. And the next thing I knew, I had a book deal, and now there's a book, and it's on Amazon, and you can get it all over the world. And it's did I say the title? It's called Shoulder Down.
Shoulder down.
Shoulder Down.
Shoulder down.
Shoulder Down, which is a metaphor. When I was in junior high school, I played basketball. I used to love basketball, and I was doing this one-on-one drill with a kid, and he kept forcing me away from the basket and throwing up these terrible shots. And my coach, Sid Kurzunski, said, no, stop. What are you doing? I said, "Why can't he won't let me near the hoop, right?" And he says, "You got to put your shoulder down." And I go, "What do you mean?" He showed me, he dropped the shoulder and just went past the kid. He says, "You have to put your shoulder down to get past the obstacle." And that just clicked with me, and I kind of applied that to the rest of my life, right? So if something came up in front of me, I would hear Coach K's voice in my head saying, "Put your shoulder down and move through the obstacle." And that served me really well through some of the tougher times and stupid things I did in my life to land myself in horrible situations. And then, so the book really is about overcoming obstacles and being accountable. Because in our society, so much of us, so many of us are taught, "Oh, it's not your fault because a bad thing happened." Bad things happen. Nothing we can do. But we control our reaction to the bad thing. So if we use the bad thing for an excuse for more bad behavior, we have only ourselves to blame. So the day I realized, okay, yeah, some bad stuff happened to me. But then I made stupid choices. And I did that and nobody else did, so I have to own it. And once I did that, then I started to succeed at things, right? And people just don't want to do it. "I can't train because, I can't eat healthy because, I can't get out of my bad job because." You can. If I can, I'm nothing special. I'm just some kid from Winnipeg years ago. And I, now been to the Mr. Universe 3 times. This will be my 2nd time at the World Championships. And if I can do that, what can you do? Amazing things.
Yeah.
As long as you own it and move forward, put your shoulder down and move forward.
Yep. I mean, ultimately, you are in control of you.
Absolutely.
Right? So I guess it's about learning from those hard things and growing from them. And
Absolutely.
I think you're a great example of that, Todd,
Thank you.
for sure.
I'll slip you $20. Thank you.
So just a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
How are you feeling about the World Championships in Italy next June? And what will you take from your experience at the most recent Mr. Universe, work on moving into that?
The Universe being such a tough show, I mean, for me to place 5th, I had to beat a world champion to be 5th, right? So it really pushes you out of your comfort zone, right? And I have a coach that I work with, and so we were able to, take a real good, hard, analytical look at, okay, what do we need to work on? What can we improve? What was good? And so now we have about 6 months of work ahead of us. And so I have a pretty good idea who's going to be there. From the Universe, a lot of those same guys.
Okay.
So that's very inspiring because there are a couple guys that I look at, I go, I think I could beat that guy. I just have to improve this area and that area. So it's going to be, 6 months of real hard grind. But, my coach's name is Richard Politano, great guy out of the States, one of the top coaches in the world. Very fortunate to work with him. And he really feels that if we nail everything, we can challenge for a top spot. And to bring a world championship home to Canada, to Fort St. John, this little small northern community, it would be a great thing.
That'd be remarkable.
And not just for myself personally, bodybuilding is kind of, about the one person. But my whole point is I'd love to be able to show, look what I did. You can do great things as well. Look, this is proof that somebody who shouldn't succeed did. So that means you can. So, we're really trying hard to go to Italy and come back with a bigger trophy than that one. So
I mean, that trophy is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I guarantee that 1st place is a lot better than 5th. So
cool.
we're gonna try for that.
Well, I wish you the best of luck,
Thank you.
Todd, and
I appreciate it.
I'll be keeping my eye out for some updates on how that goes. I guess my last question for you, for people who are maybe, for anybody, do you have some advice for people who want to get into shape and maybe even pursue bodybuilding themselves?
Consistency. That is the toughest thing for everybody, because there's so many misleading advertisements out there. Lose this much in 30 days and da-da-da. It doesn't work that way. It takes time, right? If you come in on the days you don't want to come in, and you eat healthy food on the days where you don't want to eat healthy food, and you do it day in and day out, the body will respond, but it takes time. A lot of time when people say out of shape, and that's usually a process that takes years, and then they'll come to me and they'll be like, I want to get in shape. And it's like, well, you didn't get out of shape in 2 months. You're not going to be in shape in 2 months.
Yeah.
This is going to be time. And bodybuilding is much the same thing. Like when I started at 18, I'm just about 6 foot tall. I was 150 pounds, so I was just, but I realized from what I had read that it took years to develop a physique. So I told myself, I'm going to do this really hard for 5 years. And if at the end of the 5 years of being consistent, I haven't developed at least somewhat of a physique, maybe I'll go into something else like running or swimming or something, because maybe I just don't have it. And at the end of 3 years, I had already developed a fairly decent physique, so I realized I was onto something. But that was, to me, 3 years is nothing. But to the average person, like, whoa, 3 years. I've now been doing this for over 30 years.
Wow.
Wow. I'm 54 later this month, and still doing this. Bodybuilding is really unique because a lot of the top guys, they're not 25 years old. They're not 30 years old. They're in their 40s. They're in their 50s.
It's like a lifelong thing.
Yeah. If you stay healthy and you're careful and you don't injure yourself, you can continue to improve. Like my coach was adamant that he says, this is the best you've ever looked for a show at 53. And I started competing a long time ago.
Wow.
And here, I thought, who peaks at 53? Right? So, and he thinks I can be better at 54 at the Worlds. So consistency is absolutely everything. Be patient with yourself. Take your time. Like if you have a bucket of water and you just put a drop of water in that bucket a day, eventually it's going to fill up. It's going to take a while, but it will fill up, right? It's the same thing. Just, even if you take it a tiny step forward, it's still progress.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great advice. And diet is a huge part of it too,
For
right?
everybody.
Yeah.
People will say to me, oh, it's easy for you. How the hell is it easy for me? You know what my favorite food is in the world? Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts. Stupidest kid food ever. Love them.
Yeah.
How many Pop-Tarts do I eat? Not very many, right? The odd treat here and there. But it's way easier for me to sit on my butt at home and eat some Pop-Tarts that come and bust my butt. But I have certain goals. And one of those goals is to be strong and healthy as I age, right? So it's not that I don't eat Pop-Tarts. I don't eat Pop-Tarts as much as I would like.
It's all about moderation.
Right. So I pick a day usually, so now I'm at a point in training where once or twice a week I can have whatever I want, and I make full use of that. I'll have pizza or burgers or whatever. But the rest of my meals are healthy. And people think healthy, well, that's not fun. Actually, you know what? You can pick foods you like. Like I utilize the barbecue a lot, so I eat steak every day. I like rice, so that's easy. Even chicken on a barbecue is pretty good. Sushi, I love sushi, and sushi's super healthy. So there are things you can do. It's just sometimes it's just a matter of working with somebody who can guide you.
Of course.
Right? And say, okay, this is good, that is not. Because there's a lot of times people will assume something is healthy, like, well, I'm eating all this fruit. Okay, well, that fruit has sugar in it. And they say, well, it's natural sugar. It's still sugar, and your body still processes it the same way. So fruit in moderation is good, fruit all day is not, right? So sometimes it's just a matter of seeking out somebody that knows what they're doing to help you.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Right. Even I have a coach. I've been doing this a long time, and a lot of what my coach knows, I know as well, but he certainly keeps me accountable, and he's certainly honest with me, so if I need to improve in an area, he tells me. I mean,
especially with fitness being so trendy these days, I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation.
Oh, so much.
Right?
Yeah,
so
much.
I think it's probably good to find a plan that works for you. Everybody's body is different.
Right. Absolutely, because there is no one blueprint for everybody. There are certain rules that apply to everyone. We all have human physiology, but some people can tolerate higher carbohydrates better than others. Some can eat red meat, some cannot. So if you are looking for a good coach or good trainer, that person should be a good listener and really pay attention. So if, for example, you say to your trainer, okay, I see on my food plan you have me eating chicken 3 times a day. Well, I hate chicken. It's really hard for me to get it down. You're probably going to fail on that diet, right? So you need an alternative, right? So, so that's really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much,
Oh,
Todd. It
you're
was
very welcome.
really great to talk to you and hear about your journey and get some advice for those of you who want to get into shape. So you have been watching Community Roundup, sponsored by Brad's Furniture and Appliances. I'm Jordan Prentice, and today I've been joined by Todd Payette, Mr. Universe contestant. So be sure to keep your eyes out. Do you want to maybe just let people know your Instagram or your Facebook if they want to follow your journey?
Yeah, Facebook is just my name, Todd Payette, and you can reach me there if you're looking for training or want information on the book. There's also, along with the book, there is a documentary by the same name, but it's called Shoulder Down, Road to Redemption, and that's available on Tubi. And Instagram is Todd Payette Universe, so you can reach me there as well.
Okay, be sure to check them out, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks again, Todd.